This is Chris, and I'm from the SalesIQ's technical team. Thank you all for coming here at such a short notice. We at SalesIQ have been checking our usage of various customers to see how they're using different features, and we have also been receiving a lot of feedback from visitors to explain in detail some of the most widely used features of SalesIQ, which they don't know much about. So this webinar is hopefully one of the first in a series of such webinars designed for training our customers to be able to see and learn different capabilities of SalesIQ. The first and foremost, the most important aspect that we will be touching today is the visitor history section. We expect the webinar to go about 20-25 minutes long, followed by a brief question and answer session that's another 5 to 10 minutes long. So that's the plan for today. So you're all familiar with the SalesIQ's Visitors Online screen, and you would have seen different visitors here. You would have engaged with him. The difference between this and the visitor history section that we're going to see is pretty simple. Visitors who are currently on your website, the visitor history section, for example, contains a list of visitors who have been to your website. And they have browsed through it, but they are no longer there. That's what you find in visitor history section. It's different this way from this one called the visitors online section because it only shows visitors who are currently on your website. So after a visitor leaves your website, they will appear as a record in this visitor history section that you see here. The visitor history section is designed to help you find out more information about the visitors who are visiting your website. It reports on exactly which type of visitor visits your website, how they got to your website, and what pages they have viewed, and other information. Analyzing this data will show you how to efficiently understand who your prospective customers are, their interest level in your products or services, and a way for your sales team to specifically target them. This will help your business to close better deals. So from a bird's eye view of the screen, you can either see the visitor's name and email address, as you can see here, if it's been obtained by SalesIQ, or their IP addresses. But apart from these two, you can also see the date or the time of visit, the source from which they got to your website. You can see Facebook here, some of them, and as you scroll down more, you will see a lot of data. So the source from which they got to your website, for example, a search engine like Google or Yahoo, or social media websites like Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn, or even mass email campaign services that you send out, or cost per click campaigns like Google AdWords that you have. So visitors coming from these varied sources, including direct visits, people who type in the address of your website directly in the URL, in the address bar here to get to your website. All of them are listed here in visitor history section. Clicking each of these visitors' information will slide open these two new columns on the right with even more information about them, such as the number of times they've been to your website, how they got to your website, which page in your website they seem to be more interested in. So you can see here. So if you're a car dealership, for example, you can see which model this visitor has been looking at, and your salesperson can suggest other models within the same price range or similar capabilities when you call them. Let me pull up another visitor who has done more visits, for example. Yeah. So Since this is a demo website's data that we have with this limited data available, but on your real website, you can see all the pages listed here. So taking the case of our example as a car dealership, you know what they've been looking at and you can give them precisely that information or related information. So this helps keep both your phone conversations simple and to the point, saving time for both your people as well as your customers or potential customers. So the visits and the actions tab on the top indicates which pages precisely this visitor has been to on your website during each of their visits. An optional feature from SalesIQ also allows you to integrate the tracking capability to select buttons on your website. For example, you have a purchase tab, a section on your website. You can see how many people have clicked this complete purchase button on the website. If there's a sign up facility on your website for people to register or create a new account or download a newsletter or different buttons like that, you can optionally integrate SalesIQ to that, and it can record even those button clicks. So instead of just seeing the websites or the web pages name here, you can also see what they did on that particular web page. So this is what you can see very quickly in the visitor history section. And these are some of the most basic information that's available here. Most of you would be familiar with it, but I thought it would be a good idea to go over them anyway. So the second point that we would be looking at in the agenda for today is how to filter out the visitors based on different or specific conditions and a few sample conditions, if you will. When the visitor history section, you know, it can obtain and show you a lot of data. But after a while, as you can see, you keep scrolling down, there's just more and more data. If you want to look at some specific data, then that's like trying to find a needle in a haystack. Being able to filter through this mountain of information to find the right data that benefits your business is actually a very simple process. And that's what we're going to discover in this second part of the agenda for today's webinar. Some of you would have noticed that the visitors listed here might not be listed or appear in a proper order. They might look random, but actually they are in a proper order. They are categorized based on their lead or visitor score, as you can see here. This score is automatically computed by SalesIQ for each visitor who lands on your website based on the interest level of that visitor on your website, such as the time spent, the number of pages visited, the number of visits, their category or position inside your Zoho CRM, etc. Well, these are all the default scoring conditions. You can always customize them to suit your business better by going to settings, lead scoring, and modifying or deleting existing conditions. So the visitors who are most likely to buy your services or products will be always listed on the top because they have a better score. And that will allow your salespeople to target people better. Not just that, the score that a visitor gets here also gets pushed into their Zoho CRM profile. So you go to their profile, under visit summary, you will be able to find the visitor score. So that is crucial. So how is this useful to you? Let me give you an example to illustrate that better. For example, a florist in Manhattan, New York, who is wanting to identify potential buyers in this part of the city that's close enough for a business to deliver an order that was placed, can use this lead scoring capability to offer a high score to visitors from New York City alone. Let me show you. There you go. From New York City alone, and reduce the scores of those outside it. So this is a simple sample that I'm showing you. This helps her sales team to only focus on those who avail their services or who can avail the services, ignoring those they cannot cater to. So let's take a look at some of the other conditions in this visitor history section that will allow you to filter visitors from various bulk email campaigns you sent out, or filter visitors in your Zoho CRM database, such as leads or contacts or potentials. In the case of potentials, you can even narrow them down based on the expected deal value. So CRM potential, revenue in pipeline is more than, let's say, $1,000. So this allows you to prioritize high value deals first by devoting maximum resources to it, and then working your way down to other visitors with a much lesser score. So remember, I mentioned that visitors here are organized based on their score, the visitor score or the lead score. Many of you have asked us in the past as to how to reorder it based on the time of visit. That is, the last person out of your website should be the first person on this list. So as you scroll down, you find older and older visits. And as you scroll up, you find the most latest. Is this possible? Yes, it is possible. Go to visitor history, click this plus sign on the top next to the title. Out pops up this box. In the condition, you type the word visitor type or just the word type, and it prompts you with the option visitor type. Click that, and you can leave this unchanged, and over here change it to all. So this condition chooses every type of visitor in your visitor history database. The trick is to go here and reorder it based on the top lead score to recent. So this allows you to list the most recent visitors to your website. Not just that, if you press apply now, this will be saved, yes, but it will be only saved temporarily. So if you log out of your SalesIQ account and come back in, this filter will be gone. Make it permanent, you need to do two more steps. You need to mark it as favorite, and you need to give it a name, any name. I'm just going to call it recent visitors. I'm going to press apply to save this permanently this time. So it always stays. So here you can look at all the visitors came to my website today, and you can see them sorted based on my time zone. And you can also see where they came from. But if you want to compare this with other data, such as people from an email campaign, you can do that and have data from different columns listed here side by side. So you can compare data if you want to. But if you simply want to go back to another filter or another condition, you can do that by clicking this drop down here. If you think you don't need a filter anymore, just press this delete icon and it's gone. What are the other conditions available? The other most commonly asked is to filter visitors based on the source from which they came to your website. So I'm going to use the same keyword, source. In this case, you can choose the visitor source and leave this unchanged. Click the last drop down and you get different options. AdWords, if you're running an AdWord campaign. The word campaign here deals with email marketing campaigns that you send out. Direct visitors. Referrals are those who come to your website from another website. To give you an example, because this confuses a lot of people, if you go to Zoho.com, you will notice that there are lots of different Zoho apps listed here. And if you decide to click SalesIQ, you will be taken to the standalone web page or website for SalesIQ. If the Sales IQ team has this tracking code on that website, we would know that you, as a visitor, came to our website from Zoho.com. So we know how much of our traffic came from our parent website. It doesn't only work for parent sister websites, but at the same time, it works for any website. So if your company is being shortlisted on a review magazine that reviews, for example, the best travel sites to go on a holiday, and your website is ranked, say, number 2 on that, you can see how much of traffic to your website since those results were published came because of that website. So that is referral. Search engine, of course, deals with all kinds of search engines such as Google, Bing, Yahoo, where people search for terms related to your website and are brought in there. Social media, for example, relates to all the visitors from different social media websites such as Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and so on. So let me just choose social media here and press apply. You can see the most recent visitors here were from Facebook. Since this is a demo website, we don't get much traffic outside the live demos we do. But if it's a real website that you have, you can see how much of the traffic came from your company's Facebook page or Twitter handle and so on. So this is crucial. So what happens after you've decided what kind of data you want to see, and you have it here? Now, what do I do with it? Can I only look at it? Is that all I can do? Well, no. That is where the third topic for today's agenda comes in. How to set up multiple conditions, save them, and sort through them. So once you have set up different conditions here and saved them by different names, so you know which one is which, SalesIQ's Visitor History modules allows you to save and then download these results from here, as you can see. So exporting the data from the SalesIQ Visitor History section is pretty easy. And this is useful if you want to share it with your coworkers who are not on SalesIQ, so they can analyze it better to see how your website is performing or a new release on your website is doing. So for many companies that work on annual presentations to their board or investors, or even during internal presentations to their staff, it becomes necessary to use this data to show how visitor traffic to their website is increased during a certain period of time and how much of that has been converted into revenue. It also helps the marketing teams in your companies to analyze which sources of traffic to the website is getting them the most traffic. So, is it from AdWords or campaigns and social media? Which one is getting you the most traffic? It allows your marketing teams to see that and prioritize their marketing investments. So as you can see here, there are two different types of formats available. One is the familiar .xls, which is the Microsoft Excel format that allows you to download data in the form of columns and rows. The other is the CSV, which is the comma separated value, which is just plain text, no columns, no rows, just plain text. This is useful if you want to upload this list of data to external services such as MailChimp or Zoho's campaigns or other services. So just to give you an example, if you have a list of CRM potential customers who have been to your website, you can filter them out, get a list of them, upload it to your MailChimp or Constant Campaigns or Active Campaigns, and send out a sort of a promotional email offering them better discounts or information about upcoming product launches and so on. This is targeted. Instead of sending emails to a lot of other people who could be just window shoppers, you're making this more targeted. So the rate of conversion will be much better than making a very generalized effort at targeting everybody. So if you want to have this entire process of exporting visitor data, that is attaching it to an email and then forwarding it to your staff for them to analyze, to be automated, that is also possible through the email scheduling feature that you see here. This allows you to email designated members, email addresses, to receive this data on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis. So those folks you have mentioned here will start receiving these emails in the interval that you prescribed, as shown here, at the specific time. So the reason for this is that you can time the emails to be sent to match the lean hours of a day when your staff have more time to spare to analyze this data. So once you have downloaded the report from here, I'll show you a sample shortly as to how a report will look. What points do you focus on? What do you do? What do you research from it? That will be the last topic for today's session. Let me show you a document that I've downloaded already to save you some space. So this is just a dummy account, so we don't have a lot of people interacting with it. So that's why the number of identified visitors are low. But since this is just an example, you can see their IP address, you can see their name, you can see their email. If you have an option to collect phone numbers, you can see that. You can see the city, state, and country information. You can see their stage in your CRM. So are they a returning visitor or are they completely new? Which means if it's new, it means after this visit they were added to your CRM. So let's say there are 100 results here and only a few returning visitors. It means you're getting a lot of new traffic, but the traffic doesn't seem to be coming back. So that's something your team needs to work on to get your existing customers to return at the same space, at the same pace as new customers do. And again, you can see a lot of information about how long they have been your customers or visitors. What was their most recent visit? If you want to filter the data based on their time of visit, so you can see the most recent visits on top, you can see all of that. So as you can see through these columns, there's just so many. I cannot talk about every one of them individually, but you can see a lot of data here. It keeps going and going and going. And even here, you can, for example, see what kind of operating system they are from. And that's important because it allows you to find out if they are accessing your website from computers or mobile devices. And for companies that are technology oriented, this is very important. So here you can see a few Android devices. So on a real website, you will see a lot of a mix of both iOS and Android to show you mobile uh, device visitors as well as computer browser based visitors. You can see all of them. So yes, an Apple iPhone. So this allows you to find out a lot of data about your uh, website visitors. Even things like the page on your website they first land on, how they got to your website, all of that data it's available. The time spent here, for example. So again, if in case of a genuine website such as yours, the time spent would be much higher. So let's say the average time spent works out to something around 7 minutes. It means your team has barely 7 minutes to convince just a regular visitor to become a potential visitor. So they can actually contact you and receive more information about your products or services. And when you decide to proactively engage visitors through intelligent trigger pop ups or by manually clicking their names here, and chatting with them, you know that based on the average time spent data from here, you have less than 6 to 7 minutes before you can contact them or they leave your website altogether. So a lot of important data here, and when you convert this into charts and diagrams, that gives you a lot more information in a precise format. So that's what visitor history does. It's a repository of all the visitors on your website. Ever since SalesIQ was added to it, it keeps information about each of the visits, so you can see what they have been doing and the interest level and the actions on your website, the larger trends in behavior, and not just looking at this data, you can also download it and forward it to your staff members for analysis. That's what the visitor history section does.